Our series, alhamdulillah. So we're inshallah now going to be embarking upon the next chapter, alhamdulillah, of the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this particular chapter is very moving because there's a lot of, especially for this demographic, it's actually very meaningful. This particular chapter of the seerah, it is a chapter that depicts the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's humanity for other people. Okay, because the Tuesday that we kind of had with each other 2 weeks ago, we were embarking upon the conversations of persecution, right? The chapters of persecution of the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. And one thing that I'm going to share that's very critical for all of us to understand is that the Prophet ﷺ at the end of the day was a human being. Okay, he had human emotions at the end of the day. Although we believe that he was protected by Allah, he was a protected person more than anyone else to ever exist. He, at the end of the day, was still a human being, and he felt for the people around him. Okay, so when you think about things like when Bilal radiallahu anhu was tortured and harmed, when the mother and father of Ammar ibn Yasir were killed in front of him, when people like Khabbab ibn al-Arat were branded literally with the tools that he used to make by the Quraysh. Like, I want you guys to think about something. The Prophet ﷺ was not a person who saw those things happen and just said, well, this is the price that Allah, put on the idea of iman and faith, and that's just kind of how you have to deal with it. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We never actually believe that. The Prophet never excused the feelings that he had for the sake of saying, oh, well, this is just iman. No. I want you to know, with every moment of torture, with every moment of abuse, with every assault that the Quraysh kind of put forward to the Muslims at that time, a little bit of the Prophet's heart broke. And that teaches us a very powerful lesson. It is not against iman to be affected with grief and sadness, right? You're not a bad Muslim if you feel sad about sad situations. You're not a bad Muslim if you feel angry about angry moments. You're not a bad Muslim if you feel stressed in stressful situations, right? Nowhere in our deen does Allah or His Messenger ﷺ ever tell you, don't feel feelings. What Allah tells you in the Quran and what the Prophet ﷺ teaches you in Hadith is, no matter what you feel, make sure that you don't turn those emotions into something harmful for yourself or the people around you. That's the hukm of our deen, okay? And so when the Prophet ﷺ began seeing the torture around him, he had to make a very difficult decision, which is what? I can't allow people day after day to get hurt and killed around me and just not do anything. I have to do something for my people. And by the way, that's the number one of the greatest signs of leadership is what? Being able to be on the lookout for the people around you. Just think about them. Sometimes, we have this idea of like emotional real estate. Some of us are like, nah, I can't send that text message today. Why? Because I just can't. I can't have that conversation. I'm too tired. I already had a rough day myself. They should check on me, right? Like, we have all these kind of like weird inhibitions because we think that, oh, if I send that text message, it's going to become like a back and forth and I'm too tired. It's 10:45 p.m. at night. I got to be in bed in the next 20 minutes. Like, we overthink things. Don't overthink things and just send the text message. Sometimes, by the way, maybe I'm just old now, but I just really appreciate when someone sends me a text message that says, hey, assalamu alaikum, just thinking about you. You know who's really good at that, by the way? Mufti Kamani. Mufti Kamani and I, if you look at our text message, it's like super sad, actually. You're like, do these guys even like each other? But it's literally like a back and forth in like different like weeks or months. And we're just like, hey, assalamu alaikum, thinking about you. And it's like the heart reaction. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, hey, miss you, heart reaction. And subhanAllah, you know what's crazy? That's actually one of the most meaningful relationships in my life. I don't have to have this insane back and forth. Hey, miss you. Hope you're doing well. Oh, really? You want to know what I did today? Like, I don't think Mufti cares about what I did that day, by the way. I don't think he wants me to answer back. He just wants me to know that, hey, he's thinking about me. And the same with him. He literally, subhanAllah, sent me a text message like, so Qalam's on Umrah right now, right? So him, Shaykh al-Nasr, all these other, our teachers and peers are over there. And Mufti literally texted me, I think like 2.5, 3 days ago, and he was like, hey, just finished my tawaf. Just want to let you know I was thinking about you while I was around the Kaaba. I was like, dang. Man, that was like one of the most craziest like text messages I've ever received that made me so happy. And I'm like, I'm not even going to bother responding anything crazy. I just responded back, love you. Because it was just so meaningful. So sometimes this idea of leadership, it's not something that has to be like an all or nothing type of situation. Just send them a text message, check in on them, show them that you care. That's all there is to it. Sometimes you psych yourself out from checking in on people around you because you make a false scenario in your head that doesn't exist. And the prophetic tradition is just do it. Just do it, send the message, send that voice note, whatever it is, check in on people. That's what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. And so at this moment, the Prophet ﷺ, he made this decision to send a group of his community, his Sahaba, to a nearby area called Habasha. It's called Abyssinia, now obviously modern day Ethiopia. And the Prophet ﷺ, he sent a group of people there. It was around 80 people, the Prophet ﷺ, he sent, all right? And subhanAllah, one of the most incredible narrations about this, you guys ever have, those memories when you were young and you're going to school? You may have had that one grandparent or the parent who, like, when they saw you walking out of the door, they just couldn't, like, leave until, like, they couldn't see you any longer. It's like belonging to any Muslim family and going to the airport, right? Like, you're like, Assalamu alaikum, and you turn around, go through TSA, and you turn around, your mom is still there. You're like, Assalamu alaikum, and then you walk down the terminal, and you turn around, and they're still there. Like, are they going to leave? Like, the reality is, subhanAllah, like, they are so attached to you, they're so in love with you, that, like, they just want to make sure that they are able to see you until they physically no longer can do it anymore. And that's actually, as you get older, you start to think of it as a very beautiful thing, right? Like, my mother does not believe in curbside drop-off. She cannot believe in it. She thinks it's haram. Like, one time I told her that, I was like, Mom, please just drop me off to the airport. I'll be back literally in 24 hours. Like what? Quite literally true story. I had to go to Chicago, come back, and I'll be back in Dallas the next morning. And she was like, no, we're parking the car. I'm like, but Mom, I'm 33. She's like, no, it's not okay for me to drop you off and just like watch you walk away while I'm in my car. Like, so subhanAllah, I want you guys to think about this mentality. This is who the Prophet ﷺ was. He was not a person who just dropped people off. Hey, you have to go to Habasha. You got to go to Abyssinia because you can't live in Mecca anymore because it's too dangerous for you. He would never just tell people to go. There are riwayat that said that he would literally stand on the outskirts of Mecca, and he would basically, by the way, he had to be super low-key about it because the Quraysh, if they knew that groups of people were leaving, they would obviously persecute them. So the Prophet ﷺ almost had to act disinterested yet concerned at the same time. He would go to the outskirts of Mecca and just kind of like keep on looking out. Hey, like, did you guys, like, there's like a caravan that comes in. Hey, did you guys notice like a group of people walk in that direction? Did they look okay? Did they look happy? Did they look like they had food and water? And once confirmed, then he would rest and kind of be at ease. But constantly thinking about other people. So when you think about that ayah in the Quran, harisun alaykum bil mu'mineen, right? It's so true. Concerned over the believers was the Prophet ﷺ. Constantly concerned about them. Always. To the point where Allah would say, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِيٌ عَلَى نَفْسِ, right? Like, are you going to die out of your worry, oh Ya Rasulullah? And the Prophet's response is like, yeah, I will. Because that's who I am. I want to be there for my people, right? And so he sends this group to Abyssinia, all right? And when he sends this group to Abyssinia, something very miraculous happens, by the way. A lot of people don't talk about this narration. The Prophet ﷺ, when he sent these people off to Abyssinia, he went to the Kaaba and he began to pray for them, okay? He began to pray for them. And just like whenever you're worried about somebody in your life, like you got to go home, drop a couple of rak'ahs, right? Make that dua and ask Allah, please protect them. And he goes and he prays in front of the Kaaba publicly, by the way, and he starts to recite Surah Al-Najm, okay? He starts to recite Surah Al-Najm. By the way, if anybody in here has ever been moved by the Quran, you're gonna get hit by what I'm going to say right now. Sometimes there are moments in the Quran where like you can't describe it, but like this emotion kind of like overtakes you. Y'all feel that sometimes? Like you read a line and you feel like that was written for you, right? Even though you know that the Quran was given to the Prophet some 1500 years ago, but you feel like that line, it jumped out at you, okay? And so he was reciting the Quran publicly in front of the Kaaba, and he recites this ayah from Surah Al-Najm where it says, فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا. Very simple line. فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا. Prostrate, bow down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to your creator, فَاعْبُدُوا وَاعْبُدُوا and worship him. And the narration mentions that when he recited this, miraculously, all the Quraysh that were around him, they literally were so overcome by this recitation. By the way, y'all want to hear something trippy? Anybody in here love nice Quran recitation? That you sometimes pop that thing on and you're like, ayah, mashallah. So you pop that thing on right on Spotify, you listen to it, you're gearing up for Ramadan. Everyone right now, by the way, is locking in their Spotify top 10 reciters for the month, right? You're like, well, I'm a little bit of a Mishari guy. I'm a little bit of a Husari guy, whatever it is, right? So you're kind of getting your playlist all nice and ready. One time I thought to myself this, I was like, man, we love modern day reciters. Could you guys imagine what the recitation of the Prophet was like? Dude, can y'all imagine when he would go and he would recite Quran in his community in Mecca and then later in Medina? Could you imagine what the Prophet's voice sounded like when he used to recite Quran? And by the way, I was taught this by a teacher a long time ago. You know what he said? He said that the way that a person recites Quran is just a reflection of how the Quran makes them feel. So there are certain people who recite Quran deeply. And so they feel deeply about it at that moment. There are certain people who recite Quran very melodiously. So they kind of go on this journey of melody when they recite Quran. There are certain people who recite Quran very somberly. Maybe that's how the Quran makes them feel. So I want you to think, the Prophet ﷺ was a person who Allah literally spoke to him through the Quran. So the Quran to the Prophet ﷺ was like communication to God. It was like a conversation between him and Allah. So I can't even imagine what it would sound like when the Prophet ﷺ would say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Because sometimes to us it's like ritual, right? Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. We're reciting it so we can finish our Fatiha and then recite another surah. But to the Prophet, it was a conversation. Wala-dhalin. He would cry because he thought that Allah was talking to him. So when he recited this ayah, فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا, the Quraysh were so overwhelmed by it that they actually, subhanAllah, you know what the narration says? By the way, if you guys know just general kind of fiqh in prayer, if you recite فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا, what do you have to do? Sajda to tilawa, right? You recited a verse that involves the word sajda in it. So out of pure, ritual, you bow down to Allah Ta'ala in that rak'ah and then you get back up and you continue, okay? So he did his sajda at that moment and the Quraysh literally looking around, they almost went down to sajda. They almost went down. And they had to catch, they're like, dude, what are you doing? We don't believe that, right? So they had to catch themselves because they're like, wait. We're almost enchanted by this thing. SubhanAllah, just imagine that, right? And so at this moment, SubhanAllah, the Quraysh were so upset. They were so upset that the Quran had that effect on their heart that they, SubhanAllah, sometimes when people are having a hard time understanding their own emotions, they retaliate in the weirdest ways. You know what I'm talking about? I'm having a hard time comprehending the emotions that I feel, so I just get mean. Y'all ever been hit with secondary meanness by a family member? And you're like, what did I do? Right? I didn't do anything. This is the first time I'm seeing you today. But they're just having a hard day trying to process what they're going through. So you're just kind of like a poor bichari that just got struck on the highway emotionally, right? So the Quraysh, because they were having a hard time processing, why am I affected by Quran? I don't even believe in this thing. So their reaction was, we got to double down on our hatred towards the Prophet ﷺ. We got to double down because that's the only way I can handle it. When a person can't understand how to handle their emotions, they just react in the most adverse way possible. And so at this moment, subhanAllah, I wrote this down in my notes because I didn't want to forget this. A scholar one time, one of the commentators of Sirah, he said actually, subhanAllah, that, the Quraysh were in a weird way always in character. They never allowed their true selves to come out. They were always stuck in character because every time they got to the cusp of letting the Quran affect them, they kind of they have to remind themselves, hey, we got to get back in character. You know what I'm talking about? It's like actors who break character. For the first time you see who they really are. And there's a level of vulnerability when it comes to breaking character. Is that correct? Y'all ever seen like a movie, like Celebrity, or like a TV show sitcom where like they do like the blur, the whatever, the spoilers and the bloopers and all that stuff? You're like, wait a second, that guy is like kind of funny. Like, I thought he was like a super serious actor. Well, sometimes like that character that you play is like super burdensome upon you. And the Quraysh, the character that they were playing was rigidness, lack of Allah, lack of wanting to be close to Allah and His Messenger. That was the mask that they put on. And this is why, by the way, we're going to start reading these narrations in the next few weeks as we head into Ramadan, of when Umar radiallahu anhu, he became Muslim. When people like Abdurrahman ibn Auf, when he became Muslim. Later on, when Khalid ibn Walid, when he became Muslim. You know what all of these people said? It felt like we shed a layer off of us. Isn't that crazy? Like we were carrying this heavy costume. We were wearing this heavy costume, and it was so heavy to wear. It was so burdensome upon us, and we were getting tired of it. So when we became Muslim, it was like us being us for the first time, which kind of baffled me in my mind when I read some of these narrations, which is, subhanAllah, we a lot of times, not in like a non-Muslim way, but we are also in a weird character when we refuse to connect with certain things in our lives, like dua and salah. Like if you and I are having a hard time concentrating on prayer, maybe we're just too in character. Maybe if we're not making sincere dua, we're too in character. We're trying to preserve that character because we're still in character for the people around us at work, at school, in class, in the street, when we're walking, when we're driving our cars. But the type of person that you really are deep down is you when you are just with you and Allah alone. That's who you really are. So sometimes be okay shedding that character once in a while in our lives. Ramadan's coming around. It's the best time to do it. I'm by the way, I'm like envious of like the uncle and the aunties who like start bawling tears in their salah, because they've mastered it. They've mastered it. They could care less what junglies next to them in line for Taraweeh. Like they are bawling tears because they quite literally, subhanAllah, even though when we walk into a masjid in Ramadan and we see 4,000 people praying Taraweeh, they only see them and Allah. That's it. It's a beautiful skill, right? And so at this moment, the Prophet ﷺ, he sends off to Abyssinia this group of Muslims, okay? And they go. And in Abyssinia, there's this incredible person. His name, by the way, in traditional, seerah, his name is Ashama, okay? But he's known as Najashi. He's known as the king of the Christians in Ethiopia, in Habasha at that time. And the Muslims, they go there, and they're led by the Prophet ﷺ's cousin, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, okay? Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, by the way, was chosen by the Prophet ﷺ to be the guy who led everyone to Habasha, okay? And everyone was cool with it, all right? Everyone was cool with it. By the way, speaks volumes about the idea of leadership and following. Nowadays, like we have this issue in mainstream society that I have a hard time understanding. We have all of these like leadership training things and like, oh, how to be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. And we never have like the ways of how to be a good follower. Y'all know Ali radiallahu anhu, he dropped the most nasty line of all time one time. Y'all want to hear it? Because during the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, it was called the time of fitna. It was after the passing of Abu Bakr and Uthman, etc., etc., and Umar radiallahu anhu. So it was Ali radiallahu anhu who at that time was the Khalifa. And at the time of Ali being the Khalifa, there was a lot of people who are like kind of arguing. It's like a normal masjid basically. Like everyone's like arguing like, hey, like should we have that chandelier or not? And like parking lot wars and this, that, all that stuff. And Ali, someone came up to Ali radiallahu anhu, they said, yeah, Ali, man, at the time of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, man, we had such a good society, man. We had such a good society. You know what he dropped? He dropped the craziest line. He goes, yeah, during the time of Abu Bakr and Umar and these guys, they had followers like me, and at the time of my leadership, I have followers like you. So it's not always about leadership. You can have the best leader, and you can have the most like backwards followers. People need to learn the art of knowing how to follow leadership as well. It's not always about leadership, man. Everyone blames leadership. That's easy. It's easy to blame that one guy that's in charge. Yeah, he sucks, man. Every decision that he makes is terrible. That's easy work. What's hard is, hey, maybe like the 300 people that come to this space is actually, they're very cancerous people. Maybe we need to actually rethink where we are in terms of our behavior and our adab. And so at this point, Ja'far is the one in charge. And they go to Habasha, okay? And they seek asylum there. And the Quraysh, by the way, are nervous. They're like, yo, if these people leave and they get to Habasha and they start spilling like the secrets of Mecca to other people, like our entire reputation is gonna be completely tarnished. So we gotta go there and beat them to it. So the Quraysh, they sent two people, Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah. They send these two guys to go after the migrants to Abyssinia. And they go there, and by the way, they bring like all these gifts. And, you know, by the way, I'll tell y'all something right now. If you want to get to the heart of somebody, you don't need to swindle them and you don't need to buy their loyalty. Just be sincere. The Quraysh, you know what's so funny? The Quraysh had only one mode, and that was just trickery and trying to bribe people. That's how they won their relationships. And in Islam, we don't do that. We don't do that. In Islam, if you want genuine, organic, healthy relationships, you just have to be able to spend time with people. You just have to be able to spend time with people. No amount of gifts, no amount of favors, no amount of material goods will ever be able to replace the reality of just 5 to 10 minutes spending time with people. That's always what it's going to be. That's always going to be the prophetic tradition. And so Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah, they go to Habasha with all these gifts for this king. And they're like, hey, like we're here, by the way, to kind of like warn you a little bit. Like there's a group of 80 people that came from Mecca. I don't know what they told you, but they're kind of like not to be trusted, and you got to be careful around them. And you've known us for a really long time. So, just want to make sure that you're careful around those guys. And the king, the Najashi, he got a little bit alarmed. He was like, well, is that for real? Like, are y'all sure they're dangerous? Well, if they are, like, I want to hear what they have to say. Mind you, by the way, what did he just do? He didn't automatically believe Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah. What did he want? He wanted to hear the side of the Muslims as well, which tells you what about a very mature person. When it comes to the idea of like kind of arbitrating situations, get used to hearing both sides. A lot of times in our lives nowadays, subhanAllah, we are blinded by emotion. We think hearing one side is all that we need. As you get older and as you mature spiritually, the reality is that you have to at least hear both sides. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to always give this advice to all of his Sahaba. He said, if I ever put you in a position where you are in charge of anybody, never ever believe the first thing you hear from somebody. Always do due diligence and listen to the other person as well. Because even if the other person is not being truthful, at least now you have perspective. You have perspective. You have perspective where they're coming from. And so the Najashi, he calls Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and he says, tell me, why are you really here? Because Amr and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah are telling me something totally different. And Ja'far radiallahu anhu, by the way, this is why you, subhanAllah, drop a dua for Ja'far ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. He was such a powerful sahabi. He steps up to the Najashi, this is the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, O king, he goes, we were a nation steeped in ignorance. We worshipped idols. We ate carrion and committed many, many sins. We neglected our kin and mistreated our neighbors. The strong amongst us devoured the weak. What is he doing right there? He's telling the Najashi exactly who they used to be. I'll be honest with you. This is who we were. We were way far from being perfect. We needed a change in our life. If you're ever trying to connect with somebody on a personal level, be a human being with them. Da'wah, by the way, is not all about theological debates. It's not about like pulling up like a Quran and be like, hey, tell me where it says Jesus is the Son of God. Like that doesn't work, Habibi. It only works on TikTok for some reason. Okay? In real life, you actually have to be a human being. And Ja'far radiallahu anhu, he shows you. He tells the Najashi, he says, O king, we were people who were extremely lost ourselves. We were completely lost. We were misguided and we were doing terrible things. We used to bury our daughters. We used to do awful, awful, horrific things. And then he says here that we lived like this until Allah raised among us a messenger of whose nobility and truthfulness and honesty and purity we all became aware of. Ja'far goes, we needed help. We needed help. And that's why we're here today. He says he invited us to acknowledge Allah and to worship Allah. And he commanded us to worship Allah alone without associating anything with him. And he ordered us to pray and fast and to pay the poor and to pay the poor their due. And we acknowledged that he was Allah's messenger and we believed in him and we followed him in whatever he brought from God. And we worshipped only one Allah without associating anything with him. And we treated as unlawful what he forbade, and we embraced what he made lawful for us. And because of this, our people were estranged to us. He goes, our people threw us out because of what we believed in. Is Ja'far lying? Nope. What does that tell you? The way to resonate with people is not some elaborate plot or plan. Just be honest. Y'all know, like, y'all are, mashallah, probably at the stage in your life now, this is a 21 and up halaqah, y'all are probably at the stage in your life now where you can weed out the yap. That's what I like to call it. But when someone yaps, I know it. I can clock it from like miles away. I'm like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. It's like whenever you have to fill out that essay, you haven't hit that like 10,000 word mark yet. You're at 9,325. And for the next like 700 words, you just have to start making things up. Ja'far radiallahu anh did not have to do that. He literally goes, we were lost. We were misguided. We used to worship rocks and idols. We used to do haram things. We used to take advantage of people who are poor and weak. And Allah gave us a messenger who tells us to be good to our neighbors and to pray 5 times a day and to give our wealth away to the people who are needy of it and to be good to our parents and families and treat everybody equally. And khalas, that's it. He didn't make anything up. He didn't talk about anything that was unnecessary. And at this moment, he says, O king, we come to your country seeking your protection. We hope that we will not be dealt with unjustly. And at this point, like, the Quraysh were like watching this happen. They were like, dude, they already won. Like, they're going to let him stay. Everything that they're saying is like reasonable stuff. And so they pulled out one trick in their books. And by the way, subhanAllah, I'll tell you one thing. Y'all know what an instigator is? Nowadays, I believe they call it rage baiting. But like, there's a special place in the punishment of Allah for rage baiters. Like, I'm already like convinced. Like, people who just do things just to elicit a response in an angry way from a person around them. There's like a special place for you, mashallah. It's actually not a mashallah place, but there's a special place for you, okay? So Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah, you know what they did? They knew the exact way to rage bait Najashi. Because what was the Najashi? What was his religion? He's a Christian, right? And Ja'far and all these other people are Muslim. What's the one thing that's always going to be the elephant in the room for Muslims and Christians? What's that one topic? What is it? Prophet Isa. That's it. Everything is kumbaya, hold hands, like we're just like you guys, right? We eat bread just like you. And then all of a sudden you're like, so Jesus Christ. And everyone's like, oh God, here we go, right? And so Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah, they knew this. So they already knew that they took that L with that first speech that Ja'far just gave. So Amr ibn al-As, he goes, oh, wait. Najashi, ask them what they think about Jesus. Like, that was like his dying, like just his dying effort. If I gotta just throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, that's gonna be the thing that I die on. Hey, ask them what they think about Jesus Christ. And now all of a sudden the Najashi's eyebrows are, he's like, what about him? Right? That's like that one contentious topic. And so he turns to Ja'far and he says, what do you say about Isa ibn Maryam? Tell me, what do you say about him? Okay? And at this moment, check this out. I'm going to recite to you guys a couple of ayat. Ja'far radiallahu an, he doesn't resort to his own speech. Ja'far radiallahu an, he begins quoting from the Quran itself. And he begins to recite from the Quran from ayah number 30 of Surah Al-Maryam. And he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا. He says, وبرا بوالدتي ولم يجعلني جبارا شقيا والسلام علي يوم ولدت وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ وَيَوْمَ أُبْعَثُ حَيًّا. He begins to recite these ayats. And all of these ayats, by the way, are quotes directly from Prophet Isa. And they all translate as he says, I am Isa, a servant of Allah. He has destined me to be given the scripture and to be a prophet. He has made me a blessing wherever I go and bid me to establish prayer and give zakah, and to be kind to my mother, and has not made me arrogant or defiant. Peace be upon me the day that I was born, the day that I die, and the day that I will be brought back to life. Ja'far just recited these ayat, okay? When the Najashi asked him what they think about Prophet Isa. And at this moment, the Najashi, he looks up at the Najashi, and the Najashi's face is completely covered in his own tears. Just completely drenched in his own tears. What he does, he picks up this stick from the ground, okay? He picks up the stick from the ground, small little kind of, piece of straw or twig, and he throws it next to Ja'far. And he says, by God, Jesus, the son of Mary, Isa ibn Maryam, does not exceed what you have said by the length of this straw. Meaning, I don't even have anything else to add to what you just said. What you said was absolutely perfect. He goes, I can't even add anything to it. And at this moment he goes, go and live in my land wherever you want to. He goes, those who treat you ill will be punished. And he goes, I will not give you any trouble even if I were offered an entire mountain of gold. He goes, you're here to stay. You are our people now. You're not moving anywhere. So at this moment, I want you guys to think about something. The Quraysh tried their hardest to try and sow the seeds of doubt within people. And by the way, this is why doubt and hatred and anger and trying to sow animosity between people will never work at the end of the day. It will never work. People can try, but I'll tell you, subhanAllah, right here, I'll tell you the reason why the vices of hatred are so obvious. Number one, a person who likes to sow the seeds of doubt within other people and sow the seeds of hatred and animosity between other people, Allah will actually seal that person's heart as well. You will never be happy. When you go around and you try to instill hatred between two other people around you, Allah will completely seal your own heart. Because there's no room for that love in your own heart. So Allah will seal it up for you. Number two is you will never actually achieve what you seek, which is the love of other people. You know, when people go around trying to instigate between others around them, what's their hope? Their hope is, well, if I get those two to hate each other, that means more love for me. And this is, by the way, the fallacy of those who are jealous, right? When people are jealous of other people, what do? They spread gossip and rumors and backbiting and this and that to do what? So that all this evil kind of thought and all this evil, the su'ul dhan, can go on all the people around them. And so when it comes time for people to think about me, the guy who's kind of jealous myself and spreading rumors about other people, people will think the best of me. Because I've cast all this doubt on everybody else. But the reality is, as much as you're thinking that, what Allah is actually doing in the meantime is, Allah is sealing your heart from ever being loved by anyone around you. Y'all know that phrase, what goes around comes around? Wallahi, it's true. 100% it's true. If you go backbite about other people, I'm telling you that backbiting will come back to you. If you spread rumors about other people, people will spread rumors about you. If you go and try to instigate between other people, you will never find peace and tranquility in your own life. Look at what the Quraysh tried to do. They tried their hardest to get the Najashi to hate the Muslims. And what ended up happening? The Najashi, low-key story, he became Muslim. Y'all know how that happened? When Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah ibn Rabi'ah, they left, the Najashi, he pulled Ja'far to the side and he goes, yo, teach me about that religion. He goes, write it down for me. And Ja'far, by the way, was a katib, he could write. And he wrote down the shahada. And he goes, give it to me so I can keep it and so I can learn it. And so the Najashi used to wear kind of like a thobe, like a qamis, like a shirt that had like a pocket right here. And so Ja'far, he took that small note that he wrote of the shahada and he put it in the pocket of the Najashi. And he goes, try to learn this. And after this entire ordeal went down, by the way, y'all know how like word like spreads really fast, right? Like all it takes is for like Shagufta auntie to hear it from like one other auntie, and now like everyone knows your business. And so like, dude, like this is what happens, man. Like humanity's been the same for centuries, okay? Like everyone outside of like the Christian town hall were like, yo, I heard like there's a bunch of Muslims up in there. Like they're trying to teach people about Islam. Like we're worried. People are anxious, right? So after this whole ordeal is over, the Najashi walks out and he comes out to this crowd of nervous Christians. And they're like, oh, king, like what happened in there? He's like, don't worry about it. And so their last thing that they said, they're like, well, what do you believe? So throw it on him. They're like, what do you believe in? And you know what the Najashi said? He goes, I believe in what's right here. And by the way, there's like a very interesting kind of like Arabic term that's used for this type of like nuance. It's called tawdiya. Tawdiya basically means to do something that means something for you, but to another person it could mean something totally different. I don't know what that is equivalent in English. But like, so when he said that, when they asked him, what do you believe in? What did he point to? For himself, what did he know? That piece of writing that had what? Shahada on it. La ilaha illallah. So he goes, I believe in this. But to everybody else in front of him, what did they think that he pointed at? His heart. He goes, I believe in what's in here. So the Christian community is like, oh, God, thank God, our guy's still Christian. But the Najashi, what did he low-key become? A Muslim. And you want no proof for this, by the way? I'll give you proof right now. The proof is this. There's a hadith in the life of the Prophet ﷺ that actually says that at the time of the death of the Najashi, this was, by the way, when the Prophet ﷺ was in Medina, okay? Abu Huraira narrated this. Abu Huraira, he goes, when the Najashi passed away, the Prophet ﷺ stopped all of us and he said, all of you make istighfar for him. By the way, just a little bit of fiqh. In terms of Islamic law, at the death of a non-Muslim, one cannot say, oh Allah, forgive them, the same that you would with a Muslim. You can say, oh Allah, judge them in the best way that you deem fit. Oh Allah, have mercy upon their family and make it easy on their family. But istighfar and tawbah, that dua is reserved for those who say La ilaha illallah. So Abu Huraira, he says, when the Najashi died and the Prophet heard about it, he prayed a janazah, like a janazah, a funeral prayer in his absence, and he turned to all his companions and he says, فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ, ask for his forgiveness. Make dua for him. Which teaches you something phenomenal, by the way, to end our session, is that even years later, I fast forward to Medina, right? The Prophet ﷺ never forgot this man. You know the people that are there for you? By the way, the Prophet, there are narrations that said that he actually never even met the Najashi. He never even met him. But he prayed janazah, salatul ghaib for him. Years later, when he passed away. You know, subhanAllah, there are people in our own lives that have done so much for us and we actually don't even remember them at all. How many people in here have been influenced so beautifully by people as you've grown up in your life and you owe that person so much, but we haven't even had time to even send them like a small text message? We kind of forgot about them because that's how human memory works. We're super grateful at the moment, and then like a month goes by, a year goes by, a decade goes by, and that person becomes foreign to us. You never check on them anymore. The Prophet ﷺ was never like that. The Prophet ﷺ remembered, hey, you were there for 80 of my community members when they didn't have a home.
you best bet that I'm going to pray janazah for you. I'm going to remember you. It is a prophetic mandate, y'all. A prophetic mandate to be grateful to the people around you. Man lam yashkuru nas, la yashkuru Allah. A person who does not thank people does not thank Allah. If we can't stop and just show a little bit of gratitude to the people around us, we're not truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to remember what people did for us. Even if that person did something a long time ago. You know, I got a text message, subhanAllah, I think a few days ago from a kid who's now graduating college. And he goes, Assalamu alaikum, I don't think you remember me. And I'm like, what? He goes, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm like, okay, yeah, probably don't remember you. But then he told me his name. I remembered him. He goes, you came to Columbus, Ohio 5.5 years ago when I was a junior in high school, and you helped me with a problem that I had in high school. We'll pause a second for that then, inshallah. Are the screens down or no? The screens down or no? They're not. Okay. So inshallah, what we'll do is we'll pause with the session there, inshallah, for the day. And inshallah, next week is going to be a treat, inshallah, because we're going to be talking about the conversion of two people. If you guys are if you want to appreciate personalities, you'll definitely want to come next week, inshallah, because the two personalities are going to be a little bit different. One's Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, who's the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, and the other is Umar ibn al-Khattab. So inshallah, both of those, inshallah,
will be next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we're going to do, inshallah, really quick. We have 5 minutes left, inshallah. There should be a QR code popped up on your screen. We'll do like a very quick rapid fire Q&A, inshallah, with everybody here. And then we'll wrap up around 8 o'clock, 8:01 for Salatul Isha, inshallah. So if you guys want to go ahead and very, very quickly submit your Q&A questions, that way we can go ahead, inshallah, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. And then inshallah we'll break for prayer. So we'll get everyone kind of to submit some questions. And the answers by nature will be very, very quick, just because I want to make sure that we get to as many questions as possible. And then inshallah, yeah, very cool. Oh, good question. Someone says, are there young professionals programs after Taraweeh? Wouldn't you like to know? Yes, there is. Anybody, okay, this is going to be a shameless plug. But anybody in here come to my regular Ramadan Friday night programs that I used to host at Roots, where I hosted like a guest speaker? Well, that's happening here, inshallah. So we have a sick lineup, inshallah. I don't want to spoil it, but the lineup is sick. So inshallah, every Friday evening after Taraweeh, inshallah, this hall is going to be decked out, inshallah. So it'll be myself. I'll be hosting a guest scholar every Friday, inshallah, in Ramadan. So yes, that will be happening, inshallah. Starting on February the 20th, which is the first Friday of Ramadan, inshallah. So that'll be happening very, very soon. Somebody said, what is the response to people who abuse sincerity? Good question. Look, the reality is you can't really control people's reactions to your goodwill, correct? Like if a person abuses your adab, if a person abuses your ikhlas, if a person abuses your taqwa and your iman, the reality is that's actually more between them and Allah than between you and them, okay? What you can do for yourself is, well, I now learn a lesson that maybe this relationship that we thought we had here is not for me, right? Like if a person abuses your own sincerity, right? Like maybe you need to be friends with the people that are much more sincerity focused than a person that may not be so sincerity focused, correct? So take it as a lesson more spiritually between them and Allah, but more dunyawi, maybe it has a little bit of like a connotation of how much time should I actually be spending with this person if we're actually so different in terms of our values and our ethics, okay? Very good. Somebody said, is there a set deadline for Isha? Like, can I pray at 5 a.m.? So Isha officially ends. Literally right before the time of Fajr begins. It is the longest window of time for Salah that we have in our day. Again, there are makruhat, meaning that there are discouraged times to pray. So a person should not pray like haphazardly while like Fajr time is coming in. But technically the time of Isha does go up until the time of Fajr begins, right? So that is going to be the answer to that question. Somebody said, there's a misunderstanding that I have with a friend. How can I remedy it without any more misunderstandings? This person has mastered the art of being generic in the most generic way possible. MashaAllah, Allah rewards you for trying to be as discreet as possible to save privacy. So if you have a misunderstanding with a friend, how can you remedy it? Honestly, I know that there might be a thought in your mind where you're like, well, maybe if I'm a little bit kind of careful and ambiguous and sensitive in addressing the misunderstanding, it might be better. Actually, for me personally, I've learned more so, you actually save much more feelings by being a little bit more direct, right? Usually a lot of things get mistranslated when you're trying to be a little bit kind of like roundabout and curveballing. You know what I'm saying? Like be more direct. There's a way, by the way, of being respectfully direct. Being direct does not mean you have to be a jerk, by the way. You can be kind and courteous, but also be direct at the same time, right? So my advice to you is try not to beat around the bush. A misunderstanding is a misunderstanding. So a misunderstanding is a misunderstanding, regardless of which. But the way that you kind of save that is going to be, to your best of abilities, is going to try to be as respectfully direct as possible, inshallah. Okay? You want to answer our question? Yeah. Okay. Aya. What if you are separating people who are evil like the enemy and it serves you to set them against each other? Basically, the greater outcome is good. I have no idea what that question means. No, actually, I'm like comprehensively like combusting. I don't know what that means. If you ask that question, you can ask me after the session's over, inshallah. when I'm with specific people is just as if I knowingly forget Allah. How do I become sincere in all aspects of my life, as I'm very pious when I'm by myself? What do you think, Aya?
I'm good.
Okay, this girl. It's an evil laugh after. So if you feel that your surroundings kind of contribute to you possibly being a little bit more forgetful by nature, what I would suggest is, I don't think the response is to immediately drop friends. I think the response is trying to actually, the fact that you acknowledge it in the first place is a great acknowledgement, right? As long as being around other people does not affect your spirituality, it's okay. If you are able to be a good influence on people around you, that's good. But also, my biggest advice is start to kind of divvy up your time that you spend. If people are constantly making you forget Allah, spend less time with them, but don't cut them off completely is my biggest advice, inshallah. All right? We are going to stop with that because prayer coming in, inshallah. You can leave all your chairs, inshallah, the backjacks that are on the floor, because there's a big meeting after this, inshallah. So leave all the backjacks on the floor. All the foldable chairs behind you, you can fold those up, inshallah, and put them on the rack over there, inshallah. I would really appreciate that if you guys could do that for me. But all the floor chairs, you can leave them as is, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan, everybody. Thank you, guys. We'll see y'all, inshallah, next Tuesday. Oh, by the way, there is a hike, inshallah, on Sunday morning, inshallah. So look out on Instagram for that. It's the 8th, I believe. So inshallah, come through at 9 a.m. on the 8th, inshallah. It's on Instagram. You'll find it all over there, inshallah.